Yeah.
Okay, the first part was we introduced the basic subject of, being grounded rooted in love, learning what love is, going through the process of love, because the motive force of our lives is supposed to be his definition of love, which is contained in him. As it says in the New Testament, for the love of God is shed upon our hearts. So when we receive this and we start walking in the Spirit, we're in the law of liberty. We start understanding boundaries that we didn't see before, what's appropriate, what's not, and we start profiting and receiving these blessings, because all these boundaries that are not seeable but can only be seen through the Spirit. That's why in the Old Testament, in 2 Chronicles 16:9, talks about the eyes of Jehovah go to and fro throughout the whole earth to show themselves strong. When you go to Zechariah 3:9, it talks about the eyes on the rock, 3:9 and 4:10, eyes are on the rock. In the translation, it talks about being engraved, but in the Hebrew, it says, behold, I, the key of her opening. So in reference to that, when you go to the New Testament, the Brit Hadashah, you can see that people have an understanding, but they're blind. He references sight a lot. And when you go to 2 Peter, which talks about the divine nature and divine power, that's how you receive the promises. It lists 7 things, which those 7 things correlate with the 7 spirits. And you've heard that 7 is completion. Well, when you go to Revelation 5:6, it says, it's talking about the Lamb being slain, having the 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits. So in Zechariah, it qualifies the eyes being upon the rock, and there's some kind of, when you get into the Hebrew, there's some kind of opening. It says, behold, I'm the key of her opening. The key of our opening is love. So the whole subject matter, the object, is we acknowledge that he's a rock. We don't fully understand that. And that we're taken out of the miry clay in Psalm 40 and we're put on this rock. And we experience that measure of faith, which is the peace that surpasses all understanding. Everybody's experienced that. And then what we do as little kids, and this is one of the reasons why we have little kids, is when you start teaching a little kid something, he becomes very confident in what he's doing, and he goes, I got it from here, Dad, I got it. It's like, no, let me help you. And it's like, no, really, I got it. And so, because he loves us so much, and he recognizes our need, sometimes, and in my case, most times, it's more appropriate just to let me go stub my toe, or cut myself, or whatever, so that I start understanding and stop arguing. Because one of the 10 commandments, arrangements, dabarim, is to honor thy mother and thy father. And you're not honoring your parent by telling them you got it from here. The parent inherently understands love, and selflessly the parent predominantly is trying to impart the practical application of knowledge, known as wisdom, to their sibling, their child, in order for the child not to suffer the same consequences. In a engineering type of environment, as we grow in our understanding, we know and simplify the basic principles, for example, engineering, and as we grow and grow with our understanding of engineering, the basic principles are established quickly and efficiently. And then we get into the more sophisticated things. So when we go from horse and carriage to automobile to the moon in a relatively short period of time, it's because basic simple principles of engineering have been very defined to the point where readily an individual can go to school and learn the basic principles and become a rocket scientist. It's possible. It's not difficult when he's initiated into the basic principles. The basic principles that seem to have been passed over and lost through all measures of theology, of Judaism, Catholicism, Messianic, whatever you want to call it, is the basic principles. As we grow and we're supposed to fellowship, we start learning that, and please take this and learn from it, is when you have the basic principles, just like in engineering, you can readily bring a congregation together, get rid of all the divisive things through love, and move forward. This is the object. The object is the prophecy. The prophecy is Zephaniah 3, 8, and 9. Talking about, in Hebrew, the words is haku, which is to clean, to literally. So the object of growing the roots into the rock, you become knowledgeable about, at first accepted as a euphemism, and then it becomes a reality. I can tell you that from experience. The simplest form to receive it is, well, I don't understand it, so it's a euphemism. And then he reveals to you the actual factual truth of where you stand. And the interesting thing about it, even I know it very well, there's a halting of teaching you certain aspects of that, because that's his job. He's the parent, not me. So as we become knowledgeable about what a baby is, and we understand that the child, according to Scripture, is he who knows him, the peace that surpasses all understanding, the object. And then when you become a child, there's all these things you have to go through, the lust of the flesh, fear, and finding out the true definition of a word and how he twists and everything. So this creature that used to be a thorn in our side is now working for the good. When you start recognizing the object of being grounded, rooted in love that we're focusing on, and going through this process of what it takes to become grounded, rooted in love, because it's relatively simple. When you become knowledgeable of it, then as you walk, it's easy for him to teach you. But it's very difficult to be taught electricity if you don't know anything about current. If you don't know anything about resistance, volts, watts, amps. If you don't have the basic principles and you start playing around with electricity, it's a shocking experience. From experience. So, when I was a child, I spake as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. When you start growing and the roots are soaking in the nutrients of the water, as you freely receive, you freely give. So when you start speaking to other people, you start recognizing the difference between what is called stultifying, where a child of Babylon, this is how you can discern the difference between a child of Babylon and a child of God, of Elohim. Child of Babylon, you go to Psalm 137, the last verse of Psalm 137, you will see that there's this horrendous verse that people look at and they're like, oh no. It says, blessed is the man that takes your children and smashes them on the rock. I mean, really? But that's how they translate it. It's all in Hebrew is to glean or to overdo it. And the difference between a child of Babylon and a Na'ar is the child of Babylon just spews forth a tremendous amount of information and it's not being received. The people just, and I've done it myself where I've just threw out all the information, look how much I know, and the person's like brain dead after I'm done. And I've had it done to myself where people spew forth information and I'm like, whoa, it's too much. And brain dead. When you are a Na'ar, you go to the book of James and it talks about the wisdom from above. It's first pure, peaceable, easily treated. And then it talks about the wisdom from below. It's contentious, argumentative, all this stuff. So we don't really fully understand that until we start having the connection, the object of connecting to the rock. So this next section is focused on the connectivity of where we're at and how through patience and through activities, we grow into the rock. I can tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt that Romans chapter 8, 33 through 39 is absolutely true. When your roots go into a rock, it's literally just like if roots were into a rock. If you take roots that are into a rock, you can't pull them out. Not happening. It's kind of a cool little thing. Yeah, hopefully someday I'll have that for, this is what you want. Because people like visual aids. So that's the object of this video. There's some things that are cognitive, that are relative to this, that help and encourage, and hopefully there'll be more of these little relative things that will encourage your roots to grow into the rock, because that's your source of salvation. That's it.